metaphor for life. Really quickly, I do want to talk one more Miami Heat topic, and I mentioned this a minute ago, but like Pat Riley, like this dude's incredible. So I was thinking about this, and this is another one that I tweeted out a few weeks ago, but Pat Riley, I'm going to throw something at you, and you're going to think I'm crazy, but I want you to hear me out on this. I think you can make a case that Pat Riley is the greatest basketball mind ever, and that he's still underrated. That he's the greatest basketball mind ever, and that he's still underrated. And again, I know you're probably saying, Torres, you're crazy. Come on, dude. You come out with these hot takes all the time, and this is the hottest one. Hear me out. So Pat Riley, when you really peel back his resume, it's kind of one of the most incredible things that you've ever really considered. First of all, I saw this stat on Sunday night after the Heat clinched. I thought this was pretty cool. Pat Riley has either played, coached, or been an executive in the NBA Finals now in 6 straight decades, okay? Won a championship with the Lakers in 1972. Won a bunch of championships as a coach in the 80s. In the 90s, came to Miami and helped them get to the NBA Finals. Not to mention the Knicks, which I'll get into in a minute. The 2000s, he obviously wins a championship with D. Wade and Shaq. By the way, I should backtrack. The 90s, he made the finals with the Knicks, not the Heat, I believe. So no finals in the 90s with the Heat. But then he gets to Miami, makes the finals in the 2000s with Shaq and Dwayne Wade, gets to the finals obviously during these 2010s with LeBron and D. Wade and Chris Bosh, and then gets to the finals this year in the 2020s. So 6 straight decades that he has made the NBA Finals, not to mention that in the 60s he was an All-American at Kentucky and also made a Final Four and national championship game appearance there. So that's kind of his resume, right? And it's like, okay, he's the great. He's one of the greatest, right? It's like him, Phil Jackson, Jerry West, Red Auerbach, shuffle them up, throw them in, whatever. It's like one of those 4 is always in the conversation. But when I was thinking about Pat Riley, this is why I was thinking, I think this dude might also be the most underrated basketball mind of his time, right? So we all at least are kind of aware of the era with the Lakers. I don't think people realize 4 championships in a decade, pretty good, I'd say. 7 finals from 1981 to 1989. Unbelievable. But that's like the least impressive part of Pat Riley's resume. 7 NBA Finals appearances with the Los Angeles Lakers. After that, he goes to the New York Knicks, leaves the Lakers in 1990. By 1993, he has them within a game or 2 of the NBA Finals. They lose to Jordan's Bulls. Then in 94, he takes the New York freaking Knicks to the NBA Finals. And I know people say, oh, Michael Jordan was playing baseball, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. The Knicks. We're talking about the Knicks. We're talking about a team that has done nothing right for 20 years. And Pat Riley had them in the finals within getting there for 2 or 3 years. Then he leaves New York. He ends up in Miami. How about this? This, to me, is the most incredible thing on Pat Riley's resume that no one talks about. He has rebuilt the Miami Heat 4 different times since he got to Miami, okay? First one, gets there, organization's terrible. It's easy to forget now the organization was terrible. First time he rebuilds the Knicks, or with the Heat, it's with those Alonzo Mourning, Tim Hardaway teams. Gets those 2 guys. They get to a few Eastern Conference Finals. They don't break through, but if you remember what the Heat were like in the early 1990s, mid-1990s before he got there, they were pretty terrible. They were pretty terrible, okay? Does well in Miami, gets to the conference finals, loses there. Tim Hardaway, Alonzo Mourning, has a couple down years. Then he gets Dwayne Wade. Then he trades for Shaq. Second rebuild. They win a championship in 2006. No big deal. It's what Pat Riley does. Wins championships. What he does. Third rebuild. Shaq gets old. He gets traded. They move on. You then have the D. Wade, LeBron, Chris Bosh, Miami Heat. 4 NBA Finals, 2 championships. By this point, Pat Riley's an executive. And then, of course, this most recent one in 2020, which, frankly, I think might be the most impressive. I mean, I know it's in a bubble. There's no home court advantage, all these other variables. But they beat the best team in the East, the Milwaukee Bucks, And they beat probably the most talented team in the East, the Boston Celtics, to get here. So they didn't get the easy path, even if they didn't have a traditional path because of the bubble. But when you think about the fact that this guy, 7 NBA Finals with the Lakers, including 4 championships, New York Knicks, he gets to the NBA Finals. And then 4 different rebuilds in Miami. I just think this guy's incredible. And I do think he's underrated. I do think he's underappreciated. I think because recently he's been more of an executive because of the fact that he stays out of the limelight, because of the fact that Eric Spoelstra has kind of taken on some of the kind of public face of the organization, if you will, as long as the players. I don't know exactly what it is. I just think it's credible. Shout out to Pat Riley, because I do not think people realize how good that guy is.